Hey guys, so in this video I'm going to talk about a new PC build, and this is actually my wife's new Alder gaming system. Now I call it a gaming system because we wanted to be able to game on it, and it may be used for gaming in the future. We wanted it to be capable of gaming. The first thing you're probably going to notice is that it does not include a GPU at this time. We are considering purchasing one and expanding it in the future, but the main reason I didn't include a GPU is because at the time of the build, GPU prices were absolutely crazy because of the chip shortages and supply chain problems and scalpers and all that other stuff. So we just wanted to hold off on the GPU because we weren't really going to be able to be using it for gaming at the beginning. It was just going to be a general purpose system that we potentially we're going to be doing some serious gaming with later on. Didn't have to be the most amazing system ever anyways, but we did want it to be a pretty decent gaming system. So we are holding off on the GPU. Prices at the time of recording this audio, actually the prices have come down a little bit. So when I built it, it was pretty crazy expensive, and I had to build this really quick. This is actually an older system. This is a replacement for an older system that so her old PC actually died, and we just wanted to, the effort that would have gone into rebuilding it would have been it's just faster and easier to build a brand new system, and she kind of needed one anyways. So I kind of built this really quickly, so I didn't want to order the parts. I wanted to have parts that I could just go and pick up at Micro Center. I wanted to order them, but order them for pickup at the store, so that I could get it thrown together pretty quickly. So I researched all the parts and ordered everything and built it pretty quick. So it was a fast build, and we just did not want to put a GPU in just due to the prices at the time. Prices have come down, and hopefully they'll be completely back to MSRP pretty soon, but currently no GPU in it. The good news is also that so right now we're using the onboard GPU that's built into the Alder Lake CPU, and that is actually about on par with the old system. Actually did have a GPU, and the onboard GPU on this new system is about on par with that one. So we're not the old system is, I want to say off the top of my head, at least 10 years old, and this new one we're not going to lose any processing power on it, at least in terms of the GPU. But if I did buy an actual an actual GPU to put into the system, it would surpass the old system by so many times. It would be just such a huge upgrade, it would be ridiculous. But in any case, it was a fast build, no GPU in it for now. I'm really happy with the case color. Choosing a white case actually caused she actually didn't care about the lights at all, but I think, and I didn't specifically want the lights, but they came with the case and with the RAM sticks, and they do look amazing on a white case. She picked out the white case. She did not pick out the lights. I think the lights look amazing on a white background, a lot better than on a black background. I discovered that with this build. Now I'm going to go through and talk about each of the parts in detail, but I'm just going to run down the list of parts real quick right now before going into detail. So it comes with the I'm going to start out, I'm just going to go down the list in order, maybe not logical order, but I'm going to start with the water cooler. So for the CPU actually didn't come with a heat sink at all, so we bought a MSI Mag Core Liquid 240 AIO water cooler. We also bought a Western Digital Red Pro hard drive, 4 terabytes. Keep watching this video for our rationale behind that. That wasn't the only hard drive in the system. We also bought a Samsung 970 Evo Plus 1 terabyte M2 NVMe SSD, and that was for the OS and stuff. That was meant to be the fast storage, and the Western Digital was supposed to be the large slow storage. And for a case, we had the LanCool 205 mesh ATX case, which is what you see here. And what else? We have so for system board, we have the Asus B660M Plus Tough Gaming Wi-Fi D4 motherboard. I think Tough Gaming is more than sufficient, and it fits the budget for what we wanted to spend. You could get more premium parts if you went for like an ROG or an ROG Strix motherboard from Asus, but I think their Tough line is more than fine. And other than that, also we picked out the EVGA Supernova 850 GT PSU, and we just wanted to make sure we had plenty of power for expansion and for adding a separate GPU to the system later on. Now for RAM, we picked out the Corsair Vengeance RGB Pro 16 gigs DDR4 3200 or PC 25600. So that's the RAM we picked out. And for the CPU, this is pretty much what I actually started with. I probably should have mentioned this first, but it is the Core i7 12700K Alder Lake CPU, and that is kind of what I built the system around. Now I'm going to go into detail on each one of these. I think that's everything else I wanted to talk about before actually getting into detail on these individual parts themselves. Overall, I'd say this build worked out really well. I thought it worked great, so you might want to check the link in the description for a list of all the parts. And I did individual videos on each of these components separately, but I'm basically including all of that content in this video. And yeah, so definitely check out the links in the description. It's going to cover all the parts I used, and I have a write-up for each one of the components. I have a write-up for this whole build, and I have a write-up for each of the components. I'm going to put all of those links in the description, so go check that out. The links will show you, there'll be links to my write-up on this, but I'm also going to have some links to where you can pick these up on Amazon and potentially other places like Newegg or wherever else I happen to have those. So links to where you can pick up the parts and the whole parts list and everything you would need to build the system yourself, and all the write-ups that I did on it. So yeah, this system worked out well for me. It's been working pretty well so far. We're running Windows 11 on it, and it is great. So I'm happy with this build. Plenty of other alternate builds you could use, but we're happy with this one for now. I am planning on putting together some other builds in the future. I'm considering building an AMD system for myself, but I will see how that goes. I'm not sure what I'm going to build, but yeah, stay tuned for more builds in the future. Alright, so this is the Asus B660M Plus Tough Gaming Wi-Fi D4 motherboard. Now, I bought this motherboard for my wife's new gaming PC. Picked this particular board because it has an LGA 1700 socket, and it supports the Core i7 12700K Alder Lake CPU that I had already picked out. So that was like the single most important thing. I needed a system board that could support this CPU. So basically filtered by compatible system boards, and there were a few other things I looked at too to pick this one in specific, because there are obviously a lot of other models that would support this CPU. So the price is good. I wanted to pick something in a reasonable price range for the budget for my system, and I wanted something that's good quality. And that's rated well. So I do trust Asus. I also narrowed it down to the Asus brand. I just wanted to pick something from Asus. I just like Asus. They make good products, and I kind of trust them. And I just want that's one way I narrowed it down. Also, is just by brand. So I picked Asus. I picked something that supported the CPU I wanted. Great ratings, a great quality board. Tough is not as it's their discount gaming system board, but it's not quite as premium as some of their higher end motherboard lines. But this is still really high, still good quality stuff, and it's still the Tough line of motherboards from Asus is still really great, and you should have absolutely no issue with it at all. Now that said, This was another important thing, is that this was available for quick pickup at Micro Center, because I needed to get a system thrown together quickly, and it was important that I was able to do that. Now, this system did work out great for my build, and I am so far thrilled with it. So I would give this motherboard a big thumbs up myself. It has lots of great features. It was easy to connect everything to it, and it just worked out great. So big thumbs up from me on this particular system board. All right, so let's go through the specs for this real quick. And if you want to look at these in more detail, check the link in the description. There are a lot of things like RAM speeds and stuff that are just a huge list of numbers that nobody wants to listen to me, just list out. But and there are a lot of smaller specs that probably no one wants to listen to me just list out. But I'll list the important things, not like the top 5 features or something. But I'll go through everything except listing out just long lists of numbers. But should be everything that should help you decide what to pick. Now, this is the Intel for CPU. It supports Intel socket LGA 1700 for 12th gen Intel Core, Pentium Gold, and Celeron processors. It features the Intel B660 chipset. Comes with a UEFI AMI BIOS, and what else? Form factor is micro ATX, and I'm not going to read out the exact size in centimeters, but so for memory, it comes with 4 DIMM slots, and max memory will go up to 128 gigs. The memory type is going to be DDR4, and there's a huge list of memory speeds that are supported with overclocking, and does have dual channel memory architecture and Intel Extreme Memory Profile, or XMP, and OptimM2. So for graphics, it has a DisplayPort and an HDMI port. The DisplayPort is version 1.4, and the HDMI port is 2.1, version 2.1 of HDMI. So both of those support 4K at 60 hertz. And for expansion slots, we have a PCIe 5.0 slot at 16 times, times 16, and we're gonna have another PCIe slot. It's a PCI 3.0, and that's that's also times 16. Then we're also gonna have one PCIe 4.0 slot. And let's see, what else do we have here? For storage, we're going to have some M2 slots. We have 2 M2 slots and 4 SATA ports. So for M2 slots, those are going to be they're going to be M2 slots, or key. It's a key M, so that it's going to fit a specific type of M2 drive. That's the M2 drive within a key M. So each drive will have a slot cut into it, so it can only fit into certain M2 sockets. So there are multiple different types of M2 sockets worth being aware of. I did a video on this a little while back, getting into more detail on that. But it fits types 2242, 2260, and 2280. So those are like the sizes of M2 drive. Those are the lengths. So check the link in the description if you want to read those exact numbers and compare them to drives you're thinking about buying. But just get a standard M2 drive, and it's probably going to fit. So these M2 drives are going to be, or this M2 slot anyways, supports PCIe 4.0 times 4 mode. That's if you have the 12th gen Intel CPU. And I believe that means if you don't have a 12th gen Intel CPU, you're not going to get PCIe 4. I believe it's supposed to be PCIe 3. So, any case, 4 SATA 6 gigabit ports. So 4 of those. A lot of times you'll see. I'm actually used to seeing system boards with a lot more SATA ports, but that should be totally fine unless you're running like a NAS or something. And it was definitely fine for me. For my purposes, I only had one SATA drive in there. I had one NVMe drive in my build, and on the M2 slot, and one SATA drive. for large storage. So one for fast storage, one for large slow storage. Now networking, for the networking, we have Ethernet, and for that you're going to get one Ethernet port, and it's a Realtek. Not everyone likes Realtek, but it should be fine for most cases. Some people like different different chips other than Realtek, but it should be completely fine. And the good news is that it is fast. Depends it's all relative, but it's a 2.5 gigs, and I'm still of the mindset that like 1 gigabit is pretty standard. So a 2.5 gigabit is I think that's pretty fast. That's pretty nice. Pretty nice feature if you even have a network that supports that. It also comes with tough LAN guard for whatever that's worth, and it comes with Wi-Fi. So it actually has two places. It has two places where you can connect antennas for Wi-Fi. So you can connect two external antennas, and it's Wi-Fi 6, so 802.11 AB, G, N, AC, and AX. So it's going to support the 2.4 gigahertz and the 5 gigahertz frequency bands. It also comes with Bluetooth, and Bluetooth version is going to be 5.2. And that's it for networking. So for USB, we have 15 total USB ports, which is amazing. Just looking at all of these USB ports, especially after dealing with working with a MacBook or a lot of laptops, but especially like MacBooks, they just have a serious lack of USB ports, and I have to deal with having like all kinds of like docking stations and USB hubs plugged into other USB hubs, and just a huge pain. So this is really nice to see on a system board. This is actually pretty normal though. A lot of system boards I've looked at have just a ton of different USB ports, and but it's just something that really makes me think going over these specs for USB ports. It's something I've really come to appreciate and not take for granted. So 15 total USB ports, 8 in the rear, 7 in the front. So the front USB ports are going to be internal connectors, and for those we're going to have one USB 3.2 Gen 1 connector, which supports a USB Type-C plug. And it's also going to have one USB 3.2 Gen 1 header, supports additional 2 USB 3.2 Gen 1 ports, and it also has 2 USB 2.0 headers. So that supports an additional 4 USB 2.0 ports. Now those are the internal connectors for things that you're going to wire to the front of your case. As far as your rear USB ports, which you're probably a little bit more interested in, depending on your use case, you're going to have one USB 3.2 Gen 2x2 port, and that's going to be a Type-C or SS20. And it's going to have 4 USB 3.2 Gen 2 ports, and these are going to be Type A, and that's going to be SS10. And it also has one USB 3.2 Gen 1 port, Type A, and that's just SS. So USB 3.2 Gen 1 is just regular SS, not SS10 or SS20. And it's also going to come with 2 USB 2.0 ports of Type A. So you'll probably plug in your keyboard or mouse into those if you're not using a wireless keyboard or mouse. Now, if that was a really long list, that's probably a lot more than you'd want to just keep track of in your head. So do check the link in the description. And, I have a nice table in the document that I've linked to this. So with all of these specs, neatly listed out. Any case, for audio, we're going to have some ports and some features to cover. So for ports, we have in the rear, all right, so we have a C sub, we have mic in, line out, line in, let's see what else, an SPDIF rear optical output. So, yeah, a bunch of standard ports. You can also check, the link in the description. There are pictures of this and all of that. So, yeah, rear port, C sub, line in, line out, mic in, and SPDIF optical out. So there's all of that. Now, as far as features, these are just like built-in codecs on the motherboard, just audio features and other things that ASUS provides, which are actually pretty nice. So it has Realtek 7.1 surround sound, high definition audio codec built in, and it supports jack detection, multi-streaming, front panel jack retasking, which is kind of nice. Supports up to 24-bit or 192 kilohertz playback. Has some extra audio features. Has audio shielding, which hopefully works well, and it also has power pre-regulator to reduce power input noise to ensure consistent performance, and it comes with premium audio capacitors and a dedicated audio PCB layers. Now, I haven't tested all of this out, so I don't know for sure. I assume sound output is going to be completely fine. But I would actually be curious if there's any noise if you tried to actually record something using this. I know it should work okay, but I'm wondering if there are like any artifacts or sound. I know sometimes I've had systems where I'll try to plug in a mic into the back of a PC and I'll get a lot of interference. So I'm really kind of curious if this filters out or blocks any interference and how well it would really work. I have not tested that out on this motherboard yet, but I am kind of curious how good of a job they did with that. Now, for back panel I/O ports, I'm going to go through this real quick because most of these I've actually covered all of these, but I'm just going to list out the back panel I/O ports. It has one USB, so it has all the USB ports that I already listed. It has the display port, the HDMI port, the Wi-Fi modules, so the two places where you would plug in antennas. It has a Realtek Ethernet port and 5 audio jacks and the optical audio jack. Now, for internal connectors, you're going to have your 1x4 pin CPU fan header. You're going to have your 1x4 pin CPU optional fan header and your 1x4 pin AIO pump header, your 3x4 pin chassis fan headers. So that's for fans and cooling. For power, you're going to have one 24-pin main power connector and one 8-pin 12-volt power connector and one 4-pin 12-volt power connector. Now, we have a bunch of other miscellaneous I/O connectors on your board. You can have 3 addressable Gen 2 headers, one Aura RGB header, one clear CMOS header, one COM port header, one front panel audio header or AAFP, and one 20-3-pin system panel header with chassis intrude function. And it's going to have one Thunderbolt header, which is worth noting. I should probably mention that. I probably should have mentioned that when I was talking about USB, but you do also have a Thunderbolt header, so you can have a Thunderbolt port on the front of your PC if you like. Also comes with some special features, DigiPlus VRM and enhanced DRM overcurrent protection, ESD guards, tough LAN guard, over voltage protection, safe slot stainless steel back I/O, M2 Q-latch, Q-DIM, Q-LED, Q-slot, flexible M2 heatsink, VRM heatsink design, CPU socket lever protector, ProCool, Pro-mounted I/O shield, safe DIM. Also comes with Aura RGB headers, addressable Gen 2 headers, so a lot you can do with lighting and stuff. Now, accessories included in the box were the 2 SATA cables, Wi-Fi. It actually comes with an antenna for Wi-Fi, some M2 rubber M2 rubber package, M2 SSD screw package, tough gaming stick. Comes with a sticker, a support DVD, a certification card, and a user guide. So that's what comes in the box. And, that's a lot of stuff to cover. And if you didn't want to remember all that, just do check the link in the description. All right, so this is the Core i7 12700K Alder Lake CPU. Now, this is This is the CPU that I bought for my wife's new gaming PC. I picked this one specifically because Alder Lake was the most current generation at the time. It still is at the time of recording this. And the i7 12700K would provide, it should provide more than enough power. I really didn't need an i9. So we were looking at the i9, and it's just really unnecessary. It'd be nice to get, a higher end CPU, but there's just really no need for it at all. We technically probably don't even really need an i7, but we wanted to make sure we had more than enough power. And but an i9 would be serious overkill, and there was enough of a price difference that we would just kind of be throwing away. I think it was a couple $100 or so. So big enough price difference that we didn't go with the i9, and it just felt wasteful. So I actually wanted this specific i7 because I wanted a built-in GPU so that I would be able to run it without a GPU. I didn't want a separate graphics card initially. Eventually we're going to add one to the system, but right now the system is not going to have a GPU just to start. We wanted to be able to get the system built and up and running without having to select a GPU, and we wanted to be able to run without one. It's just a nice thing to be able to do, and we can always just add one later on. So that was a consideration that's something that we had thought about. So specs and details. So the key things are that it's it's 3.6 gigahertz, it's 12 cores, 8 performance cores, 4 efficiency cores, 20 total threads, and I believe that's because the performance cores have 2 threads each and the efficiency cores only have 1 each, which adds up to 20 total threads. And the socket type is LGA 1700, and there's no heatsink included. Definitely make sure you're aware of that. You're going to have to buy something separate. I bought an AIO water cooler from MSI, which worked out great. So those are the key things worth being aware of. Now let's talk about the specs a little bit. So I'm just going to go over some of these specs. You can check the link in the description. I have my spec sheet, and also I have another link from there that points to the actual official Intel specs. So let's see here. I'm gonna go over these real quick. A lot of these aren't really relevant. Like the lithography is Intel 7, but that probably doesn't mean a whole lot to most people. So yeah, total cores 12, as I mentioned before. 8 performance, 8 efficiency, 20 total threads. The max turbo frequency is going to be 5 gigahertz. The Intel Turbo Boost Max 3.0 frequency, also 5 gigahertz. Performance core max turbo frequency 4.9 gigahertz. Efficiency core max frequency 3.8 gigahertz, and performance core base frequency is 3.6 gigahertz. And the efficiency core base frequency is 2.7 gigahertz. If you want to actually look at those in a chart, just check the link in the description. If I don't have those updated on my document, I'll also have a link to the official Intel specs that just lists these out in a nice pretty looking table. Now the cache is a 25 meg Intel Smart Cache. The total L2 cache is 12 megs. Processor base power 125 watts, maximum turbo power 190 watts. And what else? There's a few other things on here worth mentioning. Max memory size is going to be 128 gigs. Memory types would either be DDR4 or DDR5. And 2 maximum memory channels. 76.8 gigabits max memory bandwidth, and ECC memory is supported. So the graphics processor that it comes with is the Intel UHD Graphics 770. The base frequency for that is 300 megahertz. Max dynamic frequency is 1.5 gigahertz. Graphics output is a EDP 1.4B or DisplayPort. So I guess that's We also have DP 1.4a and HDMI 2.1. Any case, 32 execution units, max resolution on HDMI of 4096 by 2160 at 60 hertz. And for DisplayPort, that's going to be 7680 by 4320 at 60 hertz. Max resolution on DisplayPort, integrated flat panel is going to be 5120 by 3200 at 120 hertz. It comes with DirectX support, OpenGL support. DirectX 12, OpenGL 4.5, multi-format codec engines, Intel QuickSync Video, Intel Clear Video HD technology, for whatever all that's worth. Supports up to 4 displays, which is pretty nice for a built-in GPU that's built into your CPU, and it has OpenCL support as well. Now, expansion options. So direct media interface revision 4.0, max number of DMI lanes is 8, scalability is 1S only, PCI Express revision 5.0 and 4.0, and configurations could be up to 1x16 plus 4 or 2x8 plus 4. Max number of PCI Express lanes is 20. Let's see, so the package specs are going to be, so socket supported is FC LGA 1700, which is basically, for as far as I understand, it's basically the same thing as LGA 1700. It has a slightly different manufacturing technology, but it's basically the same thing and compatible with anything listed as LGA 1700. At least that's my understanding of it. Max CPU configuration 1, so it supports, in any case. Thermal solution spec is PCG 2020A, and package size is 45 millimeters by 37.5 millimeters. All right, so it has a Gaussian neural accelerator, thread director, deep learning boost, Optane memory supported, speed shift technology, Turbo Boost Max technology 3.0, Turbo Boost technology, hyper-threading technology, Intel 64, instruction set 64-bit, instruction set extensions are going to be, Intel SSC 4.1 and Intel SSC 4.2, Intel AVX2, supports idle states, enhanced Intel speed step technology, thermal monitoring technologies, Intel volume management devices. For security, it's going to have vPro platform eligibility, vPro enterprise platform eligibility, threat detection technologies, or TDT. It's going to have active management technology, AMT. It's going to have standard manageability, or ISM, one-click recovery, hardware shield eligibility, Intel AAS instruction set, secure key, Intel OS guard, trusted extension technology, execute disable bit, Intel boot guard, mode-based execute control, or MBEC, control flow enforcement technology, total memory encryption multi-key, total memory encryption, Intel IT platform program, or SIPP, virtualization technology, so with redirect protection, so that's a VT-RP, and you're going to have your virtualization technology. It's going to have your VT-X and your virtualization technology for directed IO, VT-D, and you're going to have VT-X with extended page tables, or EPT. So a lot of stuff there, a lot of it, some of it's a lot. There's a lot of stuff that you probably don't care about or doesn't mean a whole lot to you. A lot of buzzwords and brand words and stuff like that. But some of that stuff actually is important and worth being aware of. But a lot of that stuff is expected to, like, your virtualization technology and some of your security technology, like execute bit disable, is actually a nice security feature. And a lot of that virtualization technology, if you are virtualizing stuff, that's great to have and great to know about. Did not really come into play in my build though. So that's about it for specs. I kind of went on and on there. That's really the type of stuff you want to read, in a table. So check the link in the description, but that's about it for specs. All right, so this is the Corsair Vengeance RGB Pro. So this is 16 gigs of RAM, and it's a DDR4 3200. Now, I bought this RAM specifically for a few different reasons. One, I like the Corsair brand, so that helped me narrow it down a little bit. And it had some pretty good ratings, and the speed and type are supported by the motherboard that I had already selected. So I just needed something that was compatible. So compatibility was a major factor there. Kind of one of the most important critical factors. And I didn't want to get DDR5 yet. I just figured, like, from everything I've read and everything I've looked into, it's worth waiting for now, at least this time. So holding off on that. And actually, one thing that I noticed about this, I would view this as a reason to get it. Not for everybody, but the LEDs look amazing. Now you can see the pictures and stuff; they don't do it justice. When you actually see it, maybe this is just me, but I personally think they looked absolutely amazing, and that actually kind of surprised me. So let's look at the features. So let's see, main features of this RAM is that it's I guess the first thing to mention, 16 gigs, but that's actually two 8 gig sticks. And let's see, it's DDR4 3200 slash, which is also PC4 25600. And it is CL16 dual channel desktop memory, and it's actually a desktop memory kit. And let's see, I'm going to read off this model number. The model number is CMW16GX4M2E3200C16. And if that's too long to, you don't want to write that down or remember it, just check the link in the description. I have all the stats and the whole write-up on this already there. So, do check that link in the description. Now, yeah, and the other main feature is the heat sink with LEDs on it. So that was pretty nice, which I had already mentioned actually. So any case, going through the specs, it's DDR4, 16 gigs. Tested speed is 3200. Tested latency would be 16-18-18-36. Tested voltage is 1.35. SPD speed is 2133 megahertz, and SPD latency is 1515. Or rather, it's the latency is 15-15-15-36. The speed rating is PC4 2600 or 3200 megahertz. And the SPD voltage is 1.2 volts. Performance profile is going to be XMP 2.0. The fan, there is no fan included, which should not be a surprise. I don't know why that needed to be listed in the specs, but it is. The memory series is Vengeance RGB Pro, which is kind of obvious from the name. Comes with so the heat spreader it comes with is anodized aluminum, and it also comes with, for LED lighting, it's RGB, and I guess that's not much of a spec, but they listed it. And let's see, single zone versus multi-zone lighting, it's dynamic multi-zone, and memory color is black. So the color of this RAM is black, so when the LEDs aren't lit up, it's just going to be a black stick of RAM. Nothing too exciting there. You can see that. Let's see, package memory format is DIMM. I guess that's basically all sticks of RAM are DIMMs. Package memory pins, so it's going to have 288 pins. As long as you have the right format, that's what matters. You don't really need to actually count the pins, so long as you have the right type of of RAM and everything, it should match up just fine. Compatibility, so it's compatible with Intel 100 series, Intel 200 series, 300 series, 400 series, 500 series, 600 series, and the Intel X299, AMD 300 series, AMD 400, AMD 500, and AMD X570. So a bunch of different series that it's compatible with. That's about it for the specs on this. All right, so this is the EVGA Supernova 850 GT PSU. And I've kind of just come to like the EVGA brand, but that's not the only. I didn't just buy it because of that. There were certain features and things that I was looking for. So I bought this PSU specifically because for a few different reasons. So it is compatible with the motherboard that I selected, so that was pretty important. I also, so I do like the EVGA brand, and I wanted 850 watts of power to be available just in case of expansion. I figured that would be more than enough. I would still have some room even after adding a GPU and whatever else I want to add to the system. Definitely don't think I would need anything more than that, and I'm actually not going to need anywhere near 850 watts just starting out. So I could have gone with something smaller, but I just wanted that much power, just for future expansion. Also, the specific power supply has great ratings, and it's efficient, and it has 100% Japanese capacitors, which is a major plus. I wouldn't have even thought of that, but that is a good thing. I've seen bad caps on system boards and things go wrong, so that does make me feel a bit better. Also, this was available for quick pickup at Micro Center. That's another reason I picked this one specifically, because I had to get this build put together quickly to replace another system that actually died. Some key features are 850 watts, 80 plus gold, so that's kind of an important rating. You could look for more, but that by itself I think makes me feel good just to have that 80 plus gold rating. And it's an ATX power supply. It's fully modular. I think most power supplies that I've seen these days are fully modular, but I remember in the not too distant past things were not modular. And for me, it kind of seems normal to have a non-modular power supply, which is actually terrible when you think about it. It's you could take it for granted now, but it's they really should have been designed like this from the beginning. I don't know why they wouldn't have been, but any case, nice that we live in a world today with modular power supplies where they're kind of standard. Any case, let's look at the specs really quick. So let's see, for cables, it comes with an ATX cable, an EPS cable, a SATA cable, PCIe cable, 4-pin peripheral cable, floppy adapter, Molex to FDD, modular cable, and AC power. So if you want the exact measurements for those, just check the link in the description. I have a table with all the specs. It's a nice, pretty looking table formatted nicely, so do check that link in the description. Now, for connectors on this, it has a 24-pin ATX connector, has one of those, and it has an EPS CPU connector, so it has two of these 8-pin connectors. And when I say 8-pin, that's actually 4 plus 4. It has 9 SATA connectors and 7 8-pin PCIe connectors. And when I say 8-pin, I mean 6 plus 2. And it has a 4-pin, has 3 4-pin peripheral connectors and 1 floppy connector, which is pretty amazing, but they may as well just throw it in there. And so total power, AC input is going to be 100 to 240 volts approximately, and it's going to have 10 to 5 amps, 60 or 50 hertz. Total output is going to be 850 watts. Now for the rails, we're going to have we have a few different rails. I'm going to go through each of these one at a time. So you have your positive 3.3 volt rail. Max out amps is 20 amps and max out watts is 130. Now your plus 5 volt rail is going to have 20 amps max out and 130 watts max out. Now your plus 12 volt rail is going to have 70.8 amps max out and 850 watts max out. Now your plus 5 VSB rail is going to have 3 amps max out and 15 watts max out. Now your negative 12 volt rail is going to have 0.3 amps and max out, and it's going to be 3.6 watts, so max out watts. And there's a nice little nice little table for this. Just check the link in the description. And let's see more details. So operating temperature is going to be 0 to 50 Celsius. Eco mode is auto, so auto eco mode. The size, the measurements are going to be 86 millimeters by 150 millimeters by 150 millimeters. The weight is going to be 6.2 pounds. And we're switching from metric to imperial here, but it is what it is. This is what they listed. Fan size and bearings. So we're going to have 135 millimeter, and it comes with fluid dynamic bearings. Now, MTBF would be 100,000 hours, and the Japanese capacitors, they're all 100% Japanese capacitors, so worth knowing. And that's pretty much it for the specs. All right, so this is the Lancool 205 mesh case. So it's an ATX case, and I purchased this. I didn't have a. It's mostly my reason for purchasing this specific case for my build was mostly aesthetic. One requirement is that it did need to fit the system board and all the parts that I'm going to put in it, the power supply and everything else. But it has more than enough space for that, and most of the other cases I looked at would also have that much space. I only have an issue if I pick something really, really small. So almost any case I picked out would have worked out. So for this, I bought this case specifically because it meets those requirements, and because my wife likes the color, and basically I just wanted to pick something that she wanted for her build. And basically one thing I discovered, I mean, it is a pretty nice case. I did want to get like I wanted a good quality case and everything, so I wanted something that's rated well, a nice quality case that looks nice, but also a color that she had wanted to have in the build. And one thing that I discovered afterwards is that it actually looks amazing. Having a white case makes all the lighting, it just reflects off of it in such a way, like it just looks amazing. It's really great. So I would highly recommend it for that purpose. Like if you have a black case, you'll see the lights inside, but they don't reflect off of the sides of the case as much, and it just isn't the same. And I was actually kind of thinking about doing the same thing for my own case. I was thinking of I wanted something that's not a black case, but I wasn't sure that I want like a pure white case when I do my I'm going to be doing a build for myself soon, and I'm kind of thinking about cases and colors. So I was actually thinking I want some alternate color on the outside, but I almost feel like having white just on the inside of the case is probably a good idea. What else could we say about this? So it is a mid tower. It has tempered glass on a tempered glass side panel, a magnetic dust filter, and it's water cooling ready, so has space for all of that. I only used an all-in-one water cooler, but you could apparently fit in a custom system depending on the system you choose to set up. And it also has side ventilation, so there's that as well. All right, so this is the MSI Mag Core Liquid P240 AIO water cooler. So this is a 240 millimeter all-in-one water cooling kit from MSI, and I bought this AIO water cooler because it fit my CPU socket type. That was pretty much the number one consideration. But also it was available for quick pickup from Micro Center because I needed to get a build put together pretty quickly. And also it generally just has a good rating and people recommend it. So those are the main considerations and the reason I purchased this. And also MSI is a name brand and pretty well known. So I kind of expect it to be okay. And it should be completely fine. And it was when I used it in my build. So let's look at the specs real quick. So it supports Intel sockets, and this is going to include LGA 1150, 1151, 1155, 1156, 1200, and 1700. Also LGA 1366, 2011, 2011-3, and 2066. It also has support for AMD sockets. So you're going to have AM5, AM4, FM2+, FM2, FM1, AM3+, AM3, AM2+, and AM2. It has two fans, and the fan dimensions are 120 by 120 by 25 millimeters, or 4.7 by 4.7 by 0.98 inches. The fan speed is 500 to 2000 RPM. Fan noise level is 14.3 to 34.3 dBA. And the fan airflow is going to be 78.73 CFM. Fan life expectancy is 70,000 hours. Fan bearings, so it comes with two ball bearings. I guess not too surprising there. Power consumption is 1.8 watts, and the rated current is 0.15 amps. And the radiator material, it's made of aluminum. radiator dimensions are 276 by 120 by 27 millimeters. And yeah, just check the link in the description if you want to actually read the exact, the equivalent in inches. And or if you want to actually just look at this in a nice chart. So PWM mode, it includes that. It includes let's see, the pump noise level is 18 dBA, and the life expectancy is 100,000 hours. And pump speed is going to be 4,200 plus or minus 10% RPM, and the power consumption is going to be the pump power consumption is going to be 4.08 watts, and the block dimensions are going to be 70.5 by 70.5 by 52 millimeters, and you can just check the equivalent inches in the chart if you check the link in the description. And that's about it. So I actually like this specific water cooler. It worked great in my build, so I would give it a thumbs up myself. I would recommend this. So yeah, if you want to get something that's at least worked out well for me, you might want to take a look at this. All right, so this is the Samsung 970 Evo Plus, and it's a 1 terabyte M2 NVMe SSD, and it comes with a VNAND technology. And this is actually the second time I've purchased this drive. So I actually did another video on this drive earlier, so you might want to go check out the history on this channel if you want to see more about this. I'll try to include a link to that other video in the description if I remember when I'm publishing this video. So this is the second time I purchased this drive. This time I'm using it for my wife's new PC. And the main reasons I picked this drive out for this build anyways, are that it's high quality, it's fast, and it was available for quick pickup at Micro Center. And yeah, it doesn't hurt that I had used it in the past for my other build. So I used it in a PC that I built a couple years back, and apparently they're still making this drive, and it's one of the top rated drives. I've had good luck with it. I've had a good experience. And I haven't actually benchmarked it yet, but I may do that at some point in the future. It is a terrific drive. You want to make sure that it matches your system board. If you use if you use all the same parts from the build that I used in my build, then it's going to be compatible with your system. But just be aware of the different sockets and socket types for NVMe drives. So the interface is going to be NVMe as opposed to SATA. So some M2 drives are actually SATA drives, so it can use the SATA, even though it's not a SATA connector, it can use the SATA protocol. They're going to be slower, so worth being aware of. This one is an NVMe drive, and the protocol it uses is NVMe 1.3, which is PCIe 3.0 times 4. And the form factor is an M2 2280 single-sided, so it has chips on one side, and it is that number 2280 specifies the length and basically the dimensions. The endurance is 150 TBW. Random read is 250,000 IOPS, and random write is 550,000 IOPS, and the sequential read is 3.5. It's 3,500 megabits a second, and sequential write is 2,300 megabits per second. Let's see what else. The memory used on it is the Samsung 9x layer VNAND TLC. So using VNAND TLC technology, which is worth being aware of. What else can we say? It has 512 megs. Well, depending on which one you get, it's going to have it's using for DRAM. It's using LPDDR4 is basically what I would say about that. And depending on the model, you're going to have different amounts of it. So controller is going to be the Samsung Phoenix, and for encryption, I guess that would be class 0 256-bit FDE TCG Opal 2.0. Yeah, I believe that's all software stuff. I'm not completely familiar with why they mentioned that in the specs, but full disclosure. But any case, the part number for this is the MZ V7S250. That's going to be for the 250 version. For the 500 gig version, it's the MZ V7S500. And for the 1 terabyte version, it's the MZ V7S1T0. And for the 2 terabyte version, it's the MZ V7S2T0. All right, so this is the Western Digital Red Pro hard drive. It's 4 terabytes. And this is one of the hard drives I used in my build. I also used an SSD for the operating system. Now, the reason I picked this is basically just I wanted to use this for large, cheap storage that would be used to keep things like archives of huge collections of old photos and stuff like that. Just tons of stuff that's just going to be stored there and kept safe and not accessed all the time. It's not going to run programs. It's not going to run the OS, and it doesn't have to be super fast. It's not necessarily going to be running, we're not going to be like accessing or running games from it or anything like that. So speed wasn't a concern, and we just wanted something big. We wanted large, cheap storage, and we didn't want to have to worry about running out or adding a new drive anytime too soon. This would be more than sufficient for what we needed. So this is what we picked. And I'm happy with the choice. I think this is the right choice to go with. It was a high quality drive for what it is. If you want something slow and large, and great ratings and all of that. That's kind of why I picked this. So that's why I picked this part specifically. All right, so the main features on this are going to be that it's an internal drive, also SATA 3, 4 terabytes. So the size, you can get the same drive in different sizes, but this is the size I picked out. It's going to be 7,200 RPMs. 6 gigabits, that's buffer to host. So that 6 gigabits transfer is just that's the speed that it can transfer over SATA 3. So that's from like the actual buffer on the disk to the host, but you're still going to be held back by when your reads actually have to read something from the platters on the disk. Your speeds are going to be as slow as 164 megabits per second, and that's sustained drive to host load. So if you're just copying large amounts of data and it's not in the cache, that's how slow it's going to be. So it is a slow drive, and which is basically what we're buying it for. But 3.5 inches and 64 meg cache, and it has CMR recording technology. So those are the main features, things worth noting. There might be other things, but those are the main things to point out. Also worth noting that this is the Pro version. Now, if you search for this on Amazon, you're going to come up with the the Pro version and the non-Pro version. So if that makes a difference to you, just pay attention to what one you're buying actually. And this specific model is the WD4003FFBX. So hopefully that helps somebody. And that's about it for my build. So those were all the components that went into it. It worked out great for me. I'm happy with the build. We're happy with how it's working. So stay tuned for other builds coming up in the future. But I'm planning on building another build, as I mentioned before, for myself. And it may be an AMD system, maybe an Intel system, and I may build some systems for other people as well. So stay tuned for all of that. I am happy with this build, so check the links in the description and all of that. And that is about it for our build for today. Go ahead and hit that like button. Also hit the subscribe button. You're not going to want to miss out on our other great videos. We have a lot of great stuff we've put out already, and we have a lot of stuff coming up soon. So definitely hit the subscribe button, and also hit the little bell icon. Otherwise, YouTube's not going to alert you when we come out with a new video, and you're not going to want to miss these. We put a lot of other great content out. This includes hardware, software, networking, servers, coding, electronics. single board computers, 3D printing, robots, and a ton more. Also, leave a comment down below, not just for me, but for the next person who watches this video. If you know something that I don't know, or you have any comments, questions, criticism, whatever you want to say, just leave the comment down below. Hopefully you found this video useful, or at least interesting. And as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.